Listen closely, because what I'm about to say may be the very thing your spirit has been crying out for. There comes a moment in a person's life when the pressure breaks, when the storm slows, when the weight you've carried starts to lose its power. And that moment is not when everything changes around you, but when something changes within you. For some of you, this is that moment. Heaven is leaning toward your life. God has seen your tears. God has seen your sacrifice. And God has seen your faith. Your breakthrough is nearer than you think, and tonight, everything begins to shift. My beloved Bar, there is a holy strength that rises in a person when they learn to let go. Not because they are tired, not because they have given up, but because they have stepped into a deeper realm of trust. When the heart becomes detached from fear, detached from anxiety, detached from the need to control every detail, a divine peace takes its place. And in that peace, God begins to work. Some of you have been holding on so tightly to your situation that you haven't allowed God room to move. You have prayed, but then you kept worrying. You have believed, but then you kept doubting. But hear this truth. The moment you release the outcome, heaven releases the miracle. Faith is not proven by how strongly you hold on, but by how completely you surrender. Emotional and spiritual detachment is not a sign of weakness. It is a sign that you know who holds your future. It is the confidence of someone who no longer bows to circumstances because their heart bows only to God. When you detach from fear, you rise into destiny. When you detach from the past, you step into the future. When you detach from what is fading, God places in your hands what is eternal. For someone listening right now, your breakthrough is tied to your release. The moment you say, Lord, I trust you more than I trust my own understanding, the chains fall. The moment you stop begging for things to change and start believing that God is changing you, the doors open. The moment you detach from the pressure of how and when, Gobardi moves swiftly and supernaturally. My friend, God has seen your faith. He has seen the nights you wrestled. He has seen the burdens you carried silently. And He is saying to you now, rest, let go, detach. I am working. You are not losing anything. You are positioning yourself to receive everything that was always meant for you. Everything changes when the heart becomes free. Everything changes when faith becomes louder than fear. Everything changes when you stop clinging to the temporary and anchor yourself in the eternal. Your financial breakthrough is coming. Your restoration is coming. Your elevation is coming. Not because you fought harder, but because you trusted deeper. The power of heaven is drawn to the soul that has learned to detach from fear and attach itself to God alone. Stand firm. Rest in Him. Release what you cannot control. For in this very act of holy surrender, the miracle begins. And everything begins to change. There comes a moment in a person's life when God invites them into a deeper dimension of trust. A realm where the soul stops wrestling and begins resting in His sovereignty. This moment rarely arrives with noise. It arrives quietly, like a whisper that tells you, you no longer need to carry this. And when that whisper reaches the heart, everything begins to shift. Detachment is not something the world understands. The world tells you to fight harder, hold tighter, push more aggressively, worry more intensely. But the Spirit of God teaches the opposite. The Spirit teaches that true power does not come from clinging. True power comes from releasing. There is a miracle hidden inside the act of release. A miracle that only unfolds when you stop holding your life together in your own strength. Some of you have prayed and prayed until your voice has grown weary, yet your burden has not moved. And the reason is not because God has not heard you. Oh, He has heard every whisper, every cry, every thought that passed through your weary heart. But sometimes God waits for a different kind of prayer. The prayer that rises from a soul that has fully surrendered, fully detached, fully entrusted everything into His hands. That kind of prayer shakes heaven. That kind of prayer opens doors that effort could never open. When you detach emotionally and spiritually from the outcome, it does not mean you are withdrawing. It means you are rising. It means you have matured in faith to the point where you no longer need to understand everything God is doing to trust Him completely. It means your spirit has entered a place where fear cannot hold you, worry cannot paralyze you, and circumstances cannot dictate the temperature of your heart. Detachment is not coldness, it is clarity. It is the clarity that comes from knowing that God's hand is stronger than your anxiety, His plan is greater than your timeline, and His wisdom is deeper than your understanding. There is a holy boldness that awakens inside a person when they release the weights they were never meant to carry. Suddenly your breath feels lighter, your mind feels calmer, and your heart becomes still. You begin to recognize that God was never asking you to fix everything. He was asking you to trust Him with everything. And when you do, the supernatural begins its quiet work. The moment you detach from fear, you begin to see what God has been preparing behind the scenes. The moment you detach from anxiety, peace flows in like a river. The moment you detach from the pressure to make everything happen by yourself, divine favor begins to move with a freedom it could not move in before. When you stop gripping life with trembling hands, God places His own steady hand beneath yours. There is nothing passive about spiritual detachment. It is one of the most powerful actions a believer can take. It is the declaration, Lord, I trust You more than I trust the evidence in front of me. And when heaven hears that, angels begin to move. When heaven hears that, chains that have been unbroken for years begin to loosen. When heaven hears that, miracles accelerate. For some of you, detachment is the doorway to the breakthrough you've been waiting for. You have fought long enough. You have struggled long enough. You have carried the burden long enough. God is telling your heart even now, release it. Let it go. Put it in my hands. The moment you do, the miracle will begin to flow toward you with no resistance, no delay, and no interference. Detach me, NT aligns you with divine timing. It positions you for divine provision. It clears the space where God intends to pour out something new, something greater, something far beyond what you could imagine. As long as the heart clings to what is fading, it cannot receive what is coming. And what is coming for you is greater. What is coming is breakthrough. What is coming is the manifestation of prayers you thought heaven had forgotten. But heaven has not forgotten. Heaven has been waiting for your release. Your strength is not in holding on. Your strength is in trusting completely. And when you st completely, when you detach from every fear, every weight, every outcome, everything begins to change. There is a sacred moment in the life of every believer when God invites them to stop fighting battles in their own strength and step into the quiet, unstoppable power of His sovereignty. It is the moment when striving ends and trusting begins. The world teaches you to push harder, fight longer, exhaust yourself trying to build what only God can establish. But heaven teaches a different law. Heaven teaches that breakthrough is born not out of frantic effort, but out of you will rest, a rest that comes from knowing God is already working in realms you cannot see. Some of you have been battling for years with the weight of responsibility pressing on your chest. You have tried to solve the unmovable, fix the unfixable, push down walls that have not responded to your streberning. You have prayed, yes, but then you picked the burden back up again the moment you said amen. You carried it because you felt you had to. You carried it because you believed the outcome depended on you. But there is a deeper truth waiting for your soul to embrace. God never asked you to battles He already won. He never asked you to carry pressures He has already taken responsibility for. The moment you stop fighting in your own strength is the moment you step into divine alignment. It is the moment heaven whispers, "Now I can take over." Rest is not passivity. Rest is spiritual warfare at its highest level. Rest is the declaration that you trust God's wisdom more than your worry. Rest is your victory cry before the breakthrough even appears. Rest is the posture that unlocks miracles. When you rest in God's sovereignty, you are not giving up, you are giving God room. You are shifting the weight from your limited capacity to His unlimited strength. And when that shift happens, something powerful begins in the unseen realm. Angels move faster, obstacles weaken, closed doors begin to tremble. What was once delayed begins to accelerate. Heaven does not move on the voice OBRF panic, it moves on the voice of trust. There is a supernatural purity that enters your spirit when you stop wrestling for control. Suddenly the fog of anxiety lifts. Suddenly the heart becomes still. Suddenly what once felt impossible begins to look small in comparison to the God who holds the universe in His hands. Rest is the soil where faith grows. Rest is the atmosphere where revelation flows. Rest is the environment where breakthrough forms. Some of you have been exhausted not because the battle was too big, but because you were fighting it in the wrong realm. You were fighting it with fear, with force, with frustration. But breakthrough comes when you fight in the realm of faith, not the realm of flesh. Breakthrough comes when you say, "God, I trust you even when I don't understand you." Breakthrough comes when you release your own timeline and embrace His perfect timing. God sees your effort, yes, but He also sees your exhaustion. And He is calling you into a higher place, a place where your heart is free, your spirit is steady, and your mind is clear. A place where you no longer wake up with the weight of tomorrow pressing on your soul. A place where you no longer fear or what you cannot predict. A place where you no longer measure your progress by what you see, but by what God has promised. The greatest miracles often happen when you stop trying to manufacture them. When you surrender the outcome, God shapes it. When you rest, God intervenes. When you cease striving, God begins moving with power. And for someone right now, this is the turning point. This is the hour when God is shifting your battle from your hands to His. This is the hour when the weight you carried for years begins to lift. This is the hour when your spirit takes its rightful place, seated at rest, trusting the one who never fails. Rest is not the absence of effort. It is the presence of divine alignment. Rest is the seal of faith that says God is in control. And when your soul settles into that truth, everything within you and everything around you begins to change. There is a powerful shift that happens within the soul the moment you release the pressure of timing to God. Timing has broken more hearts, produced more anxiety, and created more confusion than almost anything else in a believer's life. We look at the calendar, we look at the delay, we look at how long we have already prayed, and the heart begins to whisper, maybe it won't happen. Maybe God forgot, maybe it's too late. But heaven does not operate according to human clocks. Heaven is not governed by deadlines or delays. When you detach from the pressure of when and how, you step into the freedom of trusting the one who has already arranged the perfect moment for your breakthrough. There is a beauty in surrendering your timeline that only the spiritually mature understand. The immature chase outcomes, the mature rest in God's orchestration. The immature cling to deadlines, the mature cling to promise. The immature panic when things do not happen quickly, the mature understand that everything God does is purposeful, precise, and deeply intentional. When you detach from the tyranny of time, your spirit can finally breathe. The anxiety loosens its grip. The restlessness subsides. You begin to stabber in the truth that delay is not denial. Delay is often preparation. Delay is often protection. Delay is often alignment. Some of the greatest blessings in life come disguised as delays. If God had given you some things earlier, they would have crushed you. If He had opened certain doors prematurely, you would have walked into rooms you were not ready to handle. If He had allowed certain relationships, certain opportunities, certain financial increases before your character was strengthened, they would not have lifted you, they would have damaged you. But when you detach from rushing God, you begin to see the wisdom in His pace. His timing is never slow. His timing is strategic. There is a reason you are where you are, and there is a reason you are not yet where you want to be. Heaven is not punishing you. Heaven is preparing you. And there is a peace that flows into your soul when you finally say, Lord, I trust your timing more than my emotions. I trust your pace more than my pressure. I trust your seasons more than my expectations. This is the moment spiritual maturity takes root. This is the moment your faith becomes anchored instead of anxious. When you detach emotionally, FBR-ROM, the timeline, something liberating happens. You stop living in fear of missing out. You stop comparing your journey to someone else's. You stop feeling like you are behind. You stop believing that life is slipping away from you. Instead, you realize that you are exactly where God has placed you to be shaped, strengthened, deeply rooted, and prepared for what is coming. God never rushes, but He is never late. And when you align with His pace, your soul finds rest. There is a certain clarity that comes when you are no longer driven by the clock. You begin to recognize the small ways God is walking behind the scenes. You begin to notice how He has been protecting you, positioning you, and pruning you. You begin to see that what you thought was stagnation was actually divine cultivation. What you assumed was inactivity was actually God building foundations beneath the surface. God does NBROT, build skyscrapers on shallow ground. The higher He intends to take you, the deeper He prepares you. And for someone reading this, your timeline has been your greatest enemy. You have been afraid of running out of time, afraid that you missed your moment, afraid that your season passed, afraid what you prayed for will never come. But heaven is whispering to you even now, calm your heart. Your time is not passing you by, your time is being perfected. God is not finished. God has not forgotten. God has not ignored your faith. The moment you detach from anxiety over timing, you make room for expectation. You make room for faith. You make room for God to surprise you. Breakthrough rarely comes when you expect it. It often comes when your heart is at rest, your spirit is steady, and your hands are open. A soul at rest becomes a magnet for divine intervention. Trust the timing of Gobardi. Release the fear of delay. Surrender the pressure of the unknown. When you detach from the rush of your own expectations, you align with the rhythm of heaven, and in that rhythm, miracles unfold with ease, grace, and divine precision. There is a profound transformation that takes place inside a person when they detach from the need for outcomes to look a certain way. When the soul no longer needs to predict, control, or shape tomorrow, a deep, unshakable strength begins to rise. This is not weakness. This is not resignation. This is not indifference. This is spiritual maturity. It is the KBR end of maturity that says, my confidence is in God alone. Whether things unfold the way I expect or not, I am anchored. When you reach that place, nothing can intimidate you. Nothing can shake you. Nothing can pull you out of alignment. You become stable in a world that is unstable. You become Eddie in a world built on uncertainty. You begin to walk with a quiet authority that comes only from trusting God more than your need to be in control. There is a freedom that emerges when you detach from the need for circumstances to validate your faith. Many wait to feel safe until things look safer. Many wait to feel secure until conditions become favorable. Many wait to feel confident until doors open. But spiritual detachment removes this dependency. You no longer wait for the world to confirm what God already told you. You no longer need visible evidence before you feel peace. When you detach from the outcome, your peace comes from His presence, not from your predictions. Your confidence comes from His promise, not from your plans. Your strength comes from your connection to God, not from the conditions around you. This is the secret of spiritual giants. They trust God even when the path looks opposite to the promise. They believe God even when they cannot trace Him. They remain steady even when everything external appears unpredictable. And this steadiness is born from detachment. When you no longer cling to how something must happen, your spirit becomes flexible, open, and ready for God to work in ways you never imagined. Some of the greatest breakthroughs come through unexpected pathways, but you will only see them when you release your insistence on how God must do it. Imagine what would happen in your life if you stopped holding God to your script. Imagine how much lighter you would feel if you stopped trying to force doors open. Imagine how peaceful you would be if you accepted that God's way, whether familiar or not, is always the best way. When you detach from the specifics of the outcome, you give God permission to exceed your expectations. Many believers limit what God can do because they are attached to a single version of success, a single route to breakthrough, a single method of blessing. But God is not limited to your understanding. His creativity is endless. His pathways are limitless. He can move people you never expected. He can open doors you never noticed. He can align circumstances that never crossed your mind. Detachment opens the door for divine creativity to flow. There is a strength that rises when you release your grip on how you think God should answer your prayers. Suddenly, disappointment loses its sting. You stop feeling defeated when one door closes because your heart knows that God has 1,000 more. You stop panicking when things shift because you understand that sometimes God rearranges the pieces to bring you into alignment with something far greater. Detachment makes you resilient. It makes you spiritually unbendable. It makes you unstoppable. You are no longer shaken by unexpected turns because you trust the God who directs them. Many people suffer not because God is delaying, but because they are attached to a version of the blessing that is smaller than what God intends to give. They cling to a limber-eyed vision. They cling to a particular person, job, opportunity, or solution. And when God tries to redirect them, they resist. But when you detach from the narrow view, you begin to see the vastness of God as wisdom. What you thought was loss becomes preparation. What you thought was failure becomes as redirection. What you thought was the end becomes the foundation for a new beginning. And for someone reading this, your breakthrough is not being withheld, it is being enlarged. God is shaping something bigger than what you prayed for. But you must detach from the small version you had in mind. Do not fear the unknown. Do not cling to the familiar. Do not bind yourself to outcomes that limit God. Release them. Open your hands. Trust that the God who sees the end from the beginning knows exactly what He is doing. When you detach from the outcome, you become available to the fullness of God's plan. You stop resisting His direction. You stop grieving what was never meant for you. You stop fighting battles that are already won. And you begin to move with the flow of divine purpose, unburdened, unafraid, and unshaken. This is where miracles begin. This is where transformation happens. Tiberias is where your life rises into the destiny God has been preparing for you all along. There comes a moment when every truth spoken, every revelation released, and every layer of understanding converges into one defining reality. Your breakthrough is closer than your fear, stronger than your doubt, ABRND greater than your circumstances. Everything you have walked through, every delay, every burden, every unanswered prayer, every silent night was shaping you for this very alignment with God's perfect will. When you detach from fear, you step into faith. When you detach from striving, you step into rest. When you detach from your timeline, you step into His. When you detach from limited outcomes, you step into divine abundance. You were never meant to live pressed down by anxiety, chained by uncertainty, or weighed by the illusion that everything depends on you. You were created to walk in the quiet strength of someone who knows that heaven is moving, even when the earth looks still. You were designed to trust the God who sees beyond what you see, who prepares beyond what you understand, and who loves beyond what you can measure. The breakthrough you seek is not born from desperation. It is born from surrender. It is born from the courage to release what was never yours to control. It is born from the maturity to say, Lord, I trust you with the unseen, the unknown, and the unfinished. And now, as these words settle into your spirit, something begins to shift. The weight begins to lift. The fear loses its voice. The pressure releases its grip. A holy calm rises within you because you truly know that God has taken over the battle. You are stepping into a new chapter, not by force, but by faith. Not by fear, but by trust. Not by striving, but by surrender. Every Tibarhing changes from here. Walk forward with open hands. Walk forward with a steady heart. Walk forward with expectation, not anxiety. Walk forward knowing that the God who has seen your faith is the same God who will fulfill His promise. Your miracle is on its way. Your breakthrough is already unfolded, G. Your life is shifting into divine alignment. And as you release everything that once held you down, heaven releases everything that was meant to lift you up. This is your moment. This is your turning point. This is the beginning of the life God has been preparing for you all along.